News Talk 820 WBAP, the morning news. Ernie and Hal hanging out with you this morning. And we welcome Joel Patterson. He is the CEO, the head of the Vested Group. This is a firm that's always on the best place to work list. Joel, welcome to WBAP.
Good morning. Great to be here.
You know, I was reading a story, and one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you is a lot of companies, a lot of places where people work, if you don't go to work, you don't get paid. And for some, they'd say, well, that's the way it should be. But, you know, sometimes you're sick, sometimes you have emergencies and such. But if you don't go to work, you don't get paid. And I would think that that would have become less of a thing right now, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that if you haven't worked for an organization that doesn't provide certain benefits to you and you don't show up, yeah, you're not going to get paid. I think the point here is that there are still surprising amount of organizations that don't provide paid time off. And I think as we went through the pandemic, as we look at who's affected by that the most, and it seems like the numbers are pointing out that it's the lower income. It's the women. It's people raising kids. It is, the people that are struggling the most are getting the least amount of help a lot of the time. And when it comes to business, it's hard to argue that that's not part of what should be offered as part of a full-time employment. We have, as in the United States, one of the lowest or one of the fewest developed nations without a comprehensive paid family leave plan. I think that's the biggest problem, and it's impacting just about everybody these days.
It's always struck me as bad business. I saw a story the other day that said unions are fairly popular right now, and I said, if this country goes unionized again, companies have nobody to blame but themselves, and this is one of the reasons. Sometimes you have to take care of folks.
You have to. I mean, you really can impact more through business than just about anything else. You think about how much time we spend at work, whether we're remote or not, we're still employed 40 hours a week at least by most. And the impact that you can have on people, whether we're talking about all the things that we've talked about over the last couple of years, whether it's social activism, whether it's paid family leave, everything tied with COVID, it definitely has an impact. There's no question.
Joel Patterson with us. He heads up the Vested Group.
Hey, Joel, how do you handle it at your office? I grew up. No, it was you go to work for a company. You get 2 weeks the first year of vacation. After 5 years, you get 3 weeks, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe that's old school now, Joel. How do you handle it at your office?
Well, we have unlimited PTO. So what we're talking about today, as far as people not having access to PTO when they need it, isn't really applicable to us. But I can tell you that we still have to face some of those challenges. We have people that, even with unlimited PTO, have medical issues that might go beyond what would be considered normal. And so you have to look at it as something that you are flexible with. We've had employees switch to more of a part-time role in order to accommodate certain things that they've got. But I think with the labor shortage that's going on, it continues to go on, right? And unemployment is still really low. You need to make sure as an employer that you're doing everything that you can to make sure that people feel like they're engaged, to make sure that they're productive, but most importantly, make sure they're taken care of health-wise. This was a big topic during COVID, and especially during 2020, where, all right, what are you doing as an employer to make sure that your people are safe, they're healthy, they're employed? And a lot of people were doing exactly what they were already doing, but I think it was a awakening for a lot of organizations that said, hey, I got to do more. There's no way I'm going to be able to maintain the level of service and the level of quality employees that I need if I'm not doing things to make sure that they're safe and they have the ability to take care of their family.
Joel, it surprises me that with the worker shortage the way it is, that companies wouldn't just recognize that, you get this much time off and we're going to offer something we've never done before, but we kind of have no choice right now. We got to offer it if we want to get good people.
There's really no doubt. And I think most companies have figured that out. But look at what's happening getting employees back to work now, too, or getting to the office, I should say. If you look at what Apple's been doing, and they're making a lot of news and their inability to get people back to the office. I mean, it just goes to show that there's still a big gap between what the employers are recognizing and what they are needing versus what the employees say they need. And I think that we've still got to continue to have that conversation, figure out ways that are maybe unique to your organization. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer. You've got to make sure that you're thinking about how you treat your people and what keeps them engaged and what really makes them happy. I mean, you can want to boil it down to something very simple. how can you increase that level of happiness at your organization? And something as simple as that, including the PTO piece. But when you're focused on something as simple as keeping them happy, you'd be surprised at the results you get.
How do you weed out the people who take advantage of your unlimited PTO and keep it up, keep it straight and narrow?
Yeah, that was the biggest concern when we started that. We started that actually in 2019, right before the pandemic. And we were wondering the same thing. And what the reality is your culture really kind of weeds that stuff out. It doesn't mean that people don't do it, because they do. I mean, people are people. They're going to try to take advantage at times. But for the most part, it hasn't been an issue. And really what that does, for our organization at least, is it prevents people from booking or saving a bunch of PTO and then using it all at once. Because that, at the end of the year, it negatively impacts customer service. So, we made that decision, and truthfully, I'm a big believer in people, and for the most part, I like to assume that they've got positive intent, and we've found with our employees that's been the case.
Wow.
This is Joel Patterson. He heads up the Vested Group. This is a firm that's always on one of the best places to work list.
Yeah,
That's good. Good for you, Joel. Thanks for coming on this morning on WBAP.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys.